last week was President Trump's first international trip. Instead of his visits and looking at the effect on US-Israel relations, everyone was focused on Donald Melania.
They're biased, and they have likes and dislikes, and it's so obvious. And I think American people and everyone see it. It was their decision, and I have much more important.
For years, Trevor Noah has made a career out of poking fun at politicians. But this time, the joke landed in a place no one really saw coming, right in the orbit of Melania Trump. What started out looking like another ordinary late-night punchline suddenly turned into something much stranger. One minute, the audience thought they were watching a routine comedy jab, and the next minute, people online were replaying the clip over and over, studying every sentence like it contains some hidden clue. There was just something about the moment that felt unusually revealing, slightly awkward, and far too intriguing for the internet to simply shrug off. That is exactly why the conversation exploded so quickly, leaving everyone asking the same question. What did Trevor Noah say that suddenly sparked this wave of speculation about Melania and triggered the online frenzy people cannot stop talking about?
Jacob Zuma, but he knows how to handle his ladies. Yeah, he doesn't have any problems there. Donald Trump, walking around in public, his wife smacking his hand away. Pa!
It's terrible. He's not Hitler, and all of his supporters, they're standing behind him because they want to see country successful, and we see what kind of support he has.
Yeah. Right. Why do you think he does this?
Before we go any further, take a second to hit that like button and subscribe, because this story only gets more interesting from here, and you definitely do not want to miss what comes next. The strange chain of events began the instant Trevor Noah decided to mention Melania Trump during one of his late-night comedy segments. At first, it seemed like a normal part of his routine, the kind of quick political joke audiences hear all the time. But somehow, the moment evolved into something far bigger than a simple laugh. What was supposed to be harmless satire started to feel like one of those rare occasions when comedy accidentally lifts the curtain on something deeper, almost as if a casual joke suddenly exposed a larger story hiding in plain sight.
This is over it. And now I think she's starting to consistently realize that she can just, slam Trump in like a very classy way. She doesn't need to say anything to him, about him. She just says it about whatever he's speaking about. And then she just keeps it moving. And I like that the clarification there was that, because she released a statement, and then people were like, is Melania going against the president? And then released another statement that says, no, this has nothing to do with the president.
Within only a few hours, the clip from Noah's show had spread across social media platforms at lightning speed. Commentators, political observers, and everyday viewers began breaking down every line of the segment as if they were analyzing a speech instead of a comedy routine. And almost overnight, Melania Trump, someone who often appears determined to keep her distance from the non-stop political circus surrounding Washington, was suddenly pulled right back into the middle of the conversation, whether she wanted to be there or not.
Also, I would pay anything to know what he wrote inside that card that he definitely didn't actually get. We're like, roses are red, love is a mystery, I had a historic electoral college victory. Why did Trump say he called into Fox and Friends? Because it was Melania's birthday. Like, what does that mean? He's like, honey, I've got a great celebration planned for us today. I'm gonna talk to some TV people while sitting on the toilet. Like, oh, thank you, Donald. My life is a beautiful...
The irony behind all of this is actually pretty striking, because Melania Trump has always cultivated a public image built on quiet distance from political chaos. While her husband, Donald Trump, often thrives on confrontation, controversy, and a constant storm of headlines, Melania has frequently appeared like someone calmly watching the entire spectacle from a quiet balcony above the noise, rather than actively participating in the drama unfolding below.
Enormous amount of media attention had to do with Melania Trump, the First Lady, and some video. Was this an actual slap, or did she just pull her hand away? She pulled her hand away, but I didn't quite see the contact of a slap.
Wow. Leave it to Fox News not to recognize what rejection from a woman looks like. She slapped his hand away, which probably means she wants a promotion for...
That sense of distance has always fascinated the public because it naturally raises a simple but powerful question. Just how involved is she in the political world that constantly surrounds her? Trevor Noah clearly recognized that curiosity and did exactly what comedians tend to do when they notice a mystery sitting right in front of everyone. He leaned into it. His routine began raising questions that sounded playful at first, the kind of remarks that make audiences laugh, but the humor quickly developed an uncomfortable edge once people realized those questions were not entirely jokes. Noah focused on the unusual position Melania has held throughout Donald Trump's political journey. Traditionally, First Ladies play visible roles by supporting public programs, speaking about national issues, and appearing regularly beside their spouses. Melania's public presence, however, often seemed more selective. She would step into the spotlight at carefully chosen moments and then quietly fade back into the background again. That pattern created an air of mystery around her, and comedians rarely ignore a mystery involving a major public figure. When someone reveals very little, speculation rushes in to fill the empty space. Trevor Noah understood that dynamic perfectly and began unpacking it in a way that mixed humor with surprisingly sharp commentary about how political figures shape their public identities. What made the routine particularly compelling was that Noah did not simply poke fun at Melania's reserved personality. Instead, he presented the entire situation almost like a puzzle that people have been trying to solve for years. The real question was not just why she remained quiet so often, but what that silence might actually mean.
It has everything to do with LeBron and how good his school is. And I was like, really? That's all you're gonna say? That's all you're gonna... Because I was like, that is just a simple, that's a woman scorned in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like if you've ever grown up in a house where like two adults are fighting, that's pretty much what it is. Like you'll be at dinner, I remember my aunt would do that to her husband. It's like everyone would be eating something and then someone would go, like one of my favorite lines was like, someone was dishing up some food and then my uncle was like, no, he's like, don't put.
In the world of modern politics, where every statement gets examined and every social media post becomes a headline, silence can sometimes speak louder than the most dramatic speech imaginable. Trevor Noah suggested that Melania's calm distance from political turmoil might not be accidental at all, but could instead be a carefully maintained strategy. That observation touched a nerve because it challenged a common assumption that Melania simply exists on the sidelines of the Trump political universe. For years, both critics and supporters have debated whether her quiet approach is intentional or whether she genuinely prefers to avoid the intense political battles that dominate Washington. Noah transformed that debate into a comedic story by imagining what the entire spectacle might look like through Melania's eyes, as if someone were watching the political chaos from outside while still technically being part of it. The humor worked because the situation itself contains a fascinating contradiction. On one hand, Melania Trump is undeniably one of the most recognizable public figures on the planet due to her role as a former First Lady and her continued connection to American politics. On the other hand, she communicates far less frequently than most people who hold similar positions. Noah leaned directly into that contrast, joking that Melania might be the only figure in modern politics who has perfected the art of being incredibly famous while revealing almost nothing about what she actually thinks.
Embarrassing that was. Donald Trump was there trying to hold Melania's hand. She just slapped it away. He tried to grab it and she, and then the second time tried to grab it and she just did like a little thing. And everyone was like, are they okay? Are they fighting? I was like, yeah, of course they're fighting. They're having a horrible time.
As the routine continued, Noah gradually expanded the conversation beyond Melania herself and turned it into a broader reflection on how political images are carefully managed in the modern media environment. He pointed out that today's political world often operates like a stage where every public appearance, speech, and interview is designed to reinforce a specific message. Within that environment, Melania's quieter style feels almost like the opposite strategy. Instead of constantly repeating a narrative, she allows a sense of mystery to grow around her. That mystery has fueled endless speculation about her views on the controversies that have surrounded Donald Trump's career for years. While many political spouses eagerly defend their partners in interviews and public statements, Melania's appearances have typically been rare and tightly controlled. Noah joked that the result sometimes feels like watching a movie where one of the main characters walks through a scene from time to time, but never fully explains the plot. The audience laughed at the comparison, yet the observation carried a noticeable edge beneath the humor. Silence in politics can be interpreted in many different ways, and comedians love exploring those interpretations. Noah suggested that Melania's quiet presence occasionally creates the impression that she might be observing the same political drama with the same confusion as viewers watching from their living rooms. Whether that perception is accurate or not, it has become a powerful element of the narrative surrounding her public image.
Now, on the next leg of Trump's trip, which took him to the Vatican, Trump's hands really couldn't catch a break because this time, the First Lady gave him the old down low, too slow, which made me wonder, like, when you watch that, do you think maybe Melania is jealous? Maybe that's what this was about? Oh, now you want to hold hands, Donald? You sure you wouldn't rather be holding that orb? I remember when you used to touch me like the orb.
The discussion became even more interesting when Noah began comparing Melania's approach to the styles of other political spouses who have taken dramatically different paths in the spotlight. Many first ladies throughout history embraced active public roles by launching large initiatives and speaking frequently about social causes. Melania did introduce her own campaign while serving in the White House, but overall her public presence remained far more reserved than many of the women who held the role before her. That contrast made Noah's commentary resonate even more strongly because it highlighted how unusual her situation truly is. In an era where political figures often compete for constant media attention, Melania's tendency to step back from the spotlight almost feels rebellious. Noah joked that in a world where everyone seems desperate to dominate headlines, Melania somehow manages to stay fascinating simply by refusing to chase the spotlight too often. Of course, that kind of observation did not remain quietly within the walls of a comedy show. Once the segment began spreading online, reactions started pouring in from every corner of the internet. Some viewers enjoyed Noah's humorous attempt to examine the mystery surrounding Melania's public persona, while others argued that the routine exaggerated her silence. The debate quickly became part of the spectacle itself, which is exactly what tends to happen whenever comedy collides with politics.
What Melania's doing now? This is gently throwing the shade. I feel like this is all going to culminate, like it's the way LeBron and Trump are beefing. If we lived in the movies, it would culminate in like Trump would challenge LeBron to a basketball match. He'd just be like, okay, LeBron, me and you one-on-one. If I win, you quit basketball. If you win, I quit the presidency. And all of us are like, that's so dumb, that's crazy. LeBron versus Trump, LeBron. And then like Trump does have like some sinister plan. The Secret Service goes and like steals LeBron's mojo or something.
Most public figures eventually reveal their personalities through constant repetition, interviews, speeches, and endless public commentary. Melania Trump has taken a very different approach. Her appearances and statements have remained remarkably controlled and infrequent. That restraint creates a strange dynamic where each rare appearance suddenly carries far more significance than it normally would, because the public is not used to hearing from her often. Trevor Noah leaned directly into that idea by suggesting that the silence itself has almost become part of the performance. In a political world where attention functions like currency and controversy often fuels visibility, choosing not to constantly join the noise can appear surprisingly strategic. Donald Trump has long dominated the news cycle with a dramatic and highly visible presence, turning rallies, press conferences, and social media posts into headline events. Standing beside that level of non-stop spectacle, Melania's quieter style inevitably becomes even more noticeable.
Like, after a couple of hours, the doctor told her she could go home, and Melania was like, "No, I should stay. I should stay until you check everything out. I stay longer." I was like, "Okay, well, Miss First Lady, since we're keeping you longer, your husband is on his way to visit." "Okay, pull the plug. We've tried everything. Pull the plug." It's like, "You're not on life support." "I don't care. Just try it. See what happens." What have you done with Melania, Donald? What?
As the discussion continued spreading across social media, one fact became increasingly obvious. The public fascination with Melania Trump has never truly disappeared. It simply returns whenever someone shines a spotlight on the unusual position she occupies in American political life. Trevor Noah did exactly that, turning what began as a late-night comedy routine into a much larger conversation that extended far beyond the walls of a television studio. In many ways, the entire episode highlights the strange relationship between silence and attention. Melania's decision to remain relatively reserved has not reduced curiosity about her. If anything, it has made people even more interested. Noah recognized that dynamic and built an entire comedic narrative around the idea that sometimes the quietest figure in a loud political story becomes the most fascinating character. In that sense, his routine may have accomplished more than simply delivering a punchline. It reminded audiences that some of the most intriguing political stories begin with a question that nobody has fully answered yet. That lingering question continues to follow Melania because she occupies a space that feels slightly outside the usual rules of political visibility.
Completely horrible time. And you don't even need to see the video of the hands to know that they're having a bad time. I've had a theory for a long time that Donald Trump and his wife are not in a happy relationship. And I don't want to start any rumors, but I've noticed this. You know, I've noticed it in their speeches. Every time Donald Trump or Melania speak, it seems like they're throwing shade.
What makes the entire situation so fascinating is how it highlights the powerful role curiosity plays in shaping public narratives. Melania Trump's image has always carried a sense of ambiguity. Unlike many public figures who reveal their personalities through frequent interviews and speeches, she has maintained a more distant and carefully managed presence. That choice almost guarantees speculation, and speculation happens to be the fuel that drives both journalism and comedy. By building a routine around that mystery, Trevor Noah reminded viewers that some of the most compelling political stories involve the things that remain unexplained. The reaction to his segment also revealed something about how unpredictable modern media attention can be. In a non-stop news cycle filled with breaking headlines and political drama, it is rare for one moment to dominate the conversation. Yet, occasionally, a single observation or joke resonates so strongly that it cuts through the noise. Noah's comments about Melania achieved exactly that, demonstrating how even a relatively quiet public figure can suddenly become the center of a loud national debate.
I told you, Melania, me and the orb was a one-time thing. The orb means nothing to me, means nothing. I was barely hard. Normally, when Trump has a bad day, we know Trump watches Fox and Friends and yells at the TV. But today, he did the same thing, but we all got to listen in. And you could tell from the start that this was going to be special.
Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. President.
Well, good morning, and I picked a very, very special day because it's...
His decision to focus on Melania Trump also reflects a broader trend within political comedy, where attention expands beyond elected officials to include the people who surround them. Spouses, advisors, and allies often become characters in the larger story of political life. Melania's reserved personality makes her especially intriguing in that environment because audiences naturally wonder what lies beneath such a calm public exterior. As clips of Noah's routine continued spreading online, media commentators began debating whether the segment revealed something meaningful about the evolving connection between politics and entertainment. At the same time, the reactions illustrated how delicate political satire can be in an era when audiences interpret every remark through their own political perspective. For some viewers, Noah's routine felt like a clever attempt to explore a public mystery. For others, it seemed like criticism directed at someone who rarely enters public political battles. The fact that both interpretations appeared at the same time perfectly illustrates the complicated landscape modern comedians navigate.
Steal his basketball shoes, and now he can't play. LeBron's like, I can't play without my shoes. And everyone's like, come on, LeBron, you can do it, you can. And then the day finally, it's like halftime, and LeBron is losing, and he's in the locker room by himself. And then like Melania walks in, and she's like, LeBron. And he's like, Melania. And she's like, what you need to understand is that it was never the shoes, LeBron. It was always you. You can do it. And then he comes out and he dunks on Trump.
Supporters of the Trump family quickly responded by arguing that Melania's reserved style reflects dignity in personal discipline rather than emotional distance. From their perspective, her decision not to jump into every political controversy shows a deliberate effort to maintain boundaries in an environment that often feels relentlessly political. Critics, however, interpret the same behavior very differently. They suggest that silence can sometimes function as a protective shield that avoids uncomfortable questions. Trevor Noah's routine thrived right in the middle of that ongoing debate because comedy often works best when it highlights contradictions people are already discussing. Another important layer of the story involves the larger role political satire now plays in modern media. Late-night comedy has gradually evolved from simple entertainment into a platform where comedians regularly examine political events in ways that traditional news programs sometimes void. Trevor Noah has built much of his career on that approach, blending humor with commentary that encourages audiences to rethink familiar political narratives.
Melania Trump came out, and what did she choose? She came out, no one forced her, and she was like, as First Lady, I believe we need to fight against the cyberbullying. All of the people on the Twitter who are saying the bad things, we need to stop them.
Trevor Noah turned that sharp contrast into the central theme of his commentary, explaining how the calm presence of one person can appear even more mysterious when placed next to someone who thrives on chaos and constant attention. As the discussion spread across television, social media, and news outlets, analysts began exploring why the public remains so intrigued by Melania despite her limited involvement in daily political debates. That perspective allowed Noah's segment to function as both comedy and cultural commentary, which is exactly where political satire often finds its strongest voice. By transforming the mystery surrounding Melania Trump into a story about curiosity itself, Trevor Noah managed to spark a conversation that stretched far beyond a single joke. In doing so, he reminded audiences that sometimes the most captivating political character in the entire story is the one who speaks the least.